Hello. Christians we talk to often claim that they do not use the Hebrew sacred name because, they say, no one really knows what it was. However, evidence from non-Christian sources definitively shows that, in fact, even the early pagans knew what it was. Let's take a look at ancient Celtic Druid testimony concerning the sacred name. The Bible tells us that Hebrew trading ships at the time of Solomon traveled the Mediterranean Sea westward to a place called Tarshish, which scholars think may have been Spain or even Britain. Hebrew historian Moses Margoliouth gave evidence of Hebrew colonization of Britain in early times, including Druidical rites paralleling Levitical rituals, as well as the use of the Hebrew name of Elohim. Celtic scholars agree, as I will explain, but let's first begin with some linguistic background. In early alphabets, letters represented ideas. In Hebrew, Aleph, the first letter, stood for an ox. Bet symbolized a house. Gemel was a camel. Dalet, a door, and so on. Similarly, Celtic scholar John Daniel, in his book, The Druidic Idea of God, tells us that in Celtic, the letter I stood for the future, A represented the present, and O stood for the past. That's from his book, The Druidic Idea of God, pages 16 and 17. Thus, the Druidic name for Elohim, I-A-O, literally meant the ever-living, a being in existence past, present, and future. This is the exact definition given by scholars for the name of the Hebrew divinity. In fact, the Farrar Fenton Bible translation consistently translates the name of Elohim as the ever-living. Celtic scholar Daniel says, there can hardly be a question that the three letters were originally no other name than Yahweh, the Latinized form of the Hebrew Yahweh, and that such was the rendering of that name. We have the authority of several ancient writers. Diodorus Siculus says that it was related among the Jews that Moses attributed the framing of the laws to the God called Yahweh, and Theodoret states that God was by the Jews called Yahweh, from John Daniel, page 12. Hebrew language scholars tell us that the sacred name was Yahu in Judah and Yahweh in the northern Hebrew of Ephraim. Celtic scholar John Daniel states, quote, so to the Druids there was a secret name for the deity which was unutterable, or aflafar in the Celtic language, to all but the most privileged of their order, and was symbolized by the three bardic characters representing the vowels I-A-O, unquote, from John Daniel, page 11. The Druidic priests, like the Levitical priests of the Bible, were exempt from military service. The Druidic and Levitical priests were both divided into three classes. Even the Druidic ceremonial robes remind one of the Mosaic priests, and they wore breastplates of gold and jewels. One such beautiful Levitical-style Druid breastplate is on display, and I've seen it at the British Museum in London, England. The Druidic rituals, like the Old Testament Levitical, included the sacrifice of sheep, oxen, and goats, but no idol worship. Perhaps we can do no better in summing up the subject than to quote the venerable Irish historian Sir William Beetham in his book, The Gael and Cymry. He states, quote, the connection of this Hebrew-Phoenician worship with the historical traditions of the pagan Irish is so evident and so extensive that it strongly illustrates the biblical account of the progress of population from the plains of Sennaar in the Middle East to the western extremities, unquote, page 242. In research posted on our website, found at sacred-name.info, Hebrew language scholars verify that there was a difference in pronunciation of numerous words, including the sacred name. The 10 tribes of the northern house of Israel spoke an Aramaic form of Hebrew and pronounced the sacred name as Yahweh or Yahweh, while the 2 tribes of the southern house of Judah spoke a Canaanite usage of Hebrew and pronounced the sacred name as Yahuwah or Yahu in its shorter usage. Scholars attest that the word Yahweh was a later form of the word and was therefore not used as the sacred name during the period of the Old Testament. For further information and documentation on this subject, visit the research pages of our website at sacred-name.info. And may Yahuwah Elohim bless your study of this subject as you grow closer to Him in faith and knowledge. Yah bless.